Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Habib Ali and I am an ICT tutor by profession. Welcome back to another lesson. In today's lesson we are going to be learning about how to format cells by using font size, bold, italic, underlined, fill color, font color, borders, alignment, and cell styles. So for today's lesson, I'm using this file called Lesson 3 Cell Formatting, and you can get a copy of this exact same file by clicking on the link that I have left for you in the description box down below. So please click on the link and this will take you directly to Lesson 3 on my website. Download this file from there so you can work along with myself throughout Lesson 3. Okay, so let's go and check out today's question of the day. Today's question is asking us to format the worksheet using different formatting techniques. Such techniques such as font size, bold, italic, underline, fill color, font color, borders, alignments, and cell styles. So all these techniques we will be using today. There are more formatting techniques, so we will leave any other out for today's lesson and just focus on all these different formatting techniques that we can apply. Okay, so let's have a look. If you remember in the last lesson number 2, I did ask you, or part of the lesson was for you to copy this exact same data, all the text and the numbers, and then we used a sum function to calculate the total sales for every single trip. I also introduced this formatted version of lesson 2, which I did inform you that I carried out some formatting just to make it look more interesting and professional. Now in today's lesson, it is your chance to make this very boring, dull, unattractive worksheet into something such as this. It doesn't need to be exactly the same. So as we progress through today's lesson, you can see how we can use all the different formatting techniques to make a worksheet or a spreadsheet as attractive as this. So to begin with, I am going to use the font size. So I want to make this heading a lot larger simply because it is the title of this worksheet. So all I have to do is click in the cell, and in this font group under the home tab, in the font group you have got your font size. Just by clicking on the arrow, you can choose any number. The bigger number you choose, the bigger the size of the text will be. As you can see, as I'm scrolling down the numbers, you can see the size of the text is increasing by quite a lot. So I want to choose a reasonable size. I think size 28 is a pretty good size, so I'm going to choose 28. And once you have chosen, right next to the font size, you've got these two A's, one's a larger A and one slightly smaller. This is simply to increase or decrease the font size as you wish, just by clicking on the A as many times as you want. So if I click on the larger A, it will increase the font size by a few points, as you can see. Or if I click on the smaller A, I can decrease the font size, as you can see just right there. So this is pretty quick to use. It's a nice little easier font size changes that you can make. So make a note of this lovely little feature as well. Not many people use this. They tend to straight away go to the font size just down here, which is pretty common knowledge, to be honest. However, I think this is also very handy to know about. So please do make a note of that. And then we will move on to the font itself. So the font is located just up here. All it is the style of the text. You can have many styles for each of the text as you desire. So again, I'm going to change the style of the heading again just to make it stand out from the rest. So I'm going to please do make sure your cell is selected for which you want the change to apply on. So in this case, I want the heading, hence I have clicked on the heading. Then I click on the arrow and I choose any font that I think will look good for this particular worksheet. I'm going for something like this. I think that looks pretty nice, very bold. It definitely does stand out from the rest. Again, what I'm going to do, each font can be slightly smaller or larger in size. You can see this particular one is slightly smaller than the previous font. So what I can do now is use the increase font size option and just make it a little bit bigger, which I think looks a lot more better than it did before. Okay, so that's how you change the font. The next one we are going to look at is these three options here, which is bold, italic, and underline. You don't have to necessarily remember the names of each one. As you are learning, you can see as I hover my mouse over each one of these commands or features, you can see directly underneath my arrow, it does tell you the name and a little description of what this feature will actually do. Also in brackets, as you can see, it does tell you a keyboard shortcut if you enjoy using keyboard shortcuts. At this very early stage in your learning, I do recommend to avoid keyboard shortcuts. However, as you become more advanced, you can use all these lovely keyboard shortcuts. As you can see, for example, to make something italic, you can press Ctrl I. To make something underlined, you can press Ctrl+U. So what I'm going to do this time is make all these headings here. So I'm just going to select every single one by clicking and dragging. I'm going to make them bold. I'm also going to underline them. And these headings here, I'm not going to underline them, but I'm going to make them bold. And I think that's okay, looking pretty good so far. Okay, the next thing I want to do is use something called the fill color or shading, which is more general. So this little command or feature here is all about you shading the entire cell. So these boxes, remember, we call them cells. So you can shade them in or fill them in with a color that you desire. So for example, again, I want these headings to be standing out more, so I'm going to shade them in or fill them in by using this option here. So once the cells are selected, I click on the arrow and I choose the color that I want. In this case, I'm thinking of going for green here, which is a nice contrast to the black text that I have got in there. Also, I can make these headings a different color if I wish. So if I want to fill them in, remember, we are not changing the color of the font. We are simply filling in the cells itself. So I'm gonna choose a different color. I'm gonna go for blue. I think blue is more outstanding from the rest. So again, by doing this, you can see that the headings, the column headings and the row headings of all this data is more standing out, looking more bold, more presentative. So then let's move on and let's have a look at the font color this time. So if I didn't want a black text and I wanted a different color, all I have to do is highlight the relevant cells. So in this case, I want to change the color of all the trips. All I have to do is again select them all, and this little A with an underline represents all your font color. Again, remember, you don't necessarily have to remember the exact location of every command, because as you hover your mouse over them, it does tell you the exact name, as you can see right in front of you, the name and a small description of what this command will do. In particular, this one, it says the name is font color, and directly underneath it says change the color of your text. So it is very user friendly. All you have to do is be patient and keep an eye on the screen and all the different information and the description you do get. Anyway, I'm going to click on the arrow and choose a nice contrast in color. I don't want anything light. I really need something dark. So I'm going to go for maybe this one here, a nice lovely red color. There we are. So that looks pretty good to me. Again, remember, there isn't any right or wrong here. You can play about with all these different techniques that I am teaching you today in today's lesson and choose what you desire and what you personally think suits your particular spreadsheet that you will be working on. But while you're using this particular spreadsheet that you have already downloaded, feel free to work along myself and choose a similar techniques, and then you can compare yours to mine and see which one you prefer. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to borders. Now the borders are actually different from these gray lines that you can see. These gray lines, we actually refer to them as grid lines, which you will learn in another lesson hopefully in the future. But what we can do now is apply actual borders in between the cells. So all around the cell, or even outside the selected cell. So for example, if I wanted, I can add an outside border around this selected range of cells, or I can choose to have borders inside as well as outside. But the borders are, so let's go ahead and select this range again, and just here again in the font group, you've probably noticed all the formatting techniques or commands that I have introduced so far to you, all is located in this font group. So it is easy actually for you to remember the location of all these lovely commands for formatting your spreadsheet. So this particular one here is for your borders. So if I click on the arrow, it does give me a long list of the different types of borders that I can apply. So for example, I can have an outside border, which will, as you can see from these little icons, the icons itself is actually giving you a true picture of what kind of border it will apply. And also you've got the name there. So an outside border will simply apply an outside border of all the selected cells that I have selected. So I'm going to choose this one and let's see what this looks like. There we are. So we've got an outside border. You can just see there black border around this, around all the names of the trips. I'm also going to apply an outside border around all the headings for the columns just there. So again, I can click on the arrow, or I can simply click directly on there because this was the last style of border I have selected or chosen. But I'm going to click on there again just to show you and give you a bit more pictorial of all the different ones that is available. But I'm going to choose this one again anyway, an outside border. There we are. So you can see in between the lines there is no border, but all I have got is an outside border because this is what I have selected. Now I'm going to move on and show you some cell styles. Now the cell styles, we need to move across till we come to this group here called styles. So I'm going to select all these remaining cells now and click on cell styles, and inside cell styles there are some pre-formatted styles that you can actually choose from. So you've got different types, you can choose different headings. Now normally these would be more ideal to be used for the actual headings, such as this heading here, but these kind of different styles, as you can see here, you can choose any of them just to give you a different shade, different color, different font color perhaps, and a few other different formatting techniques that has been applied automatically for you. So I'm going to choose something like, let's say, a little bit lighter from the rest. I'm going to choose this one here. Again, you feel free to choose any one you fancy from this list as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go for something lighter such as this, so the data is more easier to read. Now, as you have probably noticed, this particular style that I have selected has got rid of the grid lines. So these gray lines, remember, they are called grid lines. It has got rid of them. However, what I can do now is use my borders and apply a different border to show all the borders, so in between the cells, as well as an outside border for this selected range. So this time I go back to borders and I can select all borders. So as you can see from this little icon here, it will put lines inside going down, vertical lines as well as horizontal lines in between each and every single cell that I have selected. So I'm going to click on all borders and let's see what this looks like. There you go. Now remember, these black ones, they are borders, and the gray ones that you can see, it is by default. These are the grid lines which are displayed automatically, but these are borders which will show on your actual printout. The next thing I want to show you is the alignments. So I want every single cell to be centrally aligned within the cell. So I'm going to select all of these cells, so all the text and the numbers, and you can see this particular group is called alignment. Now in Microsoft Excel, there is the option of having cells aligned horizontally and vertically. So you can see in this particular one, the vertical one at the moment is selected, is the one at the bottom. This is why the text or the numbers are actually more further down of the cell. I know it's not very clear here because I've made the height of the cell just enough size so it actually, the data within the cell does fit within the height of the cell. However, if I select center just there, and also I'm going to select the center of the horizontal position, which means it will be centralized within the cell. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And there you go, you can see every single cell has now been centralized horizontally and vertically. However, I'm not too happy with this selection, the names of the trips being centralized. So I'm going to take the highlighting or the selecting off from the rest of the cells and going to select these separately and then change the alignment to left, which would look a lot better and I think a lot easier to read. However, you may disagree with me and may decide to have it also centralized. Again, there isn't any right or wrong with this. One more thing just to finish it off is I want to fill the background of this cell to a nice lovely color. So let's see what we can do. So I've selected the cell and I'm going to choose, went to the fill or shading, you can call this, and I'm going to choose, let's see, what color would you recommend? Something darker, something like this, I think, or maybe even red. I think that looks pretty outstanding. So I'm going to go for red, and you can choose the color that you desire, but I am going for red, and I think that looks absolutely superb. So if you now remember what this Excel spreadsheet looked like before we started formatting it, now it looks a lot more attractive, looks a lot better, and it most definitely looks very professional. So please do feel free to practice all these different techniques that I have shown you in this lesson. So just a quick recap. You've got your font size there, you've got your font, which is all the different style that you can apply to your text. You've got your increase your font size here or decrease your font size here. You've got bold, italic, and underline. You've got all the different borders here. Remember, feel free to experiment with different borders as well and see how you feel. And then you've got all the fill color, or we call this shading as well. Nothing wrong wrong with shading, or you can apply all the different font colors as well. And you've also got the cell styles, please don't forget, which you can apply. This is a nice one as well. I tend to use quite a lot, so you can experiment again with all these different heading styles as well, etc. So you've got ample things that you can practice with in terms of formatting your spreadsheet. And this is the end of lesson 3. So please don't forget to like and share this lesson and subscribe to our channel if you have not done so. And I shall see you over in the next lesson. And until then, please do look after yourself, and goodbye for now.